On the 15th of April, guess what? It's known as Tax Day. It is a day when it's a day of reckoning with Uncle Sam. And he must be reckoned with. Trust me, I know from whence I speaketh, okay? We're talking about that right now because that date is the 15th. Actually, it's a little bit later, I think, than that. But the person that knows all there is to know about this is joining me now. Sandra Block is Kiplinger editor, and she is known around there as their tax expert. And, folks, we have her, and we're so good to have her here. She's going to give us some good news for those of you filing your own taxes. Sandra Block, welcome to Home and Family Finance again.
Thank you for having me.
It is always a pleasure. You know what? The thing I love is the contrast between how you sound cheerful, lovely, and what you're talking about. Boo. Taxes.
Something nobody likes to think
I
about.
know, but we can take it from you. We can take it from you, Sandy, because you sound lovely about this, but it is that time of the year again, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And as you pointed out, actually people get a little more time this year. The tax filing deadline is April 18th this year, so people get a little more time to file. But even then, it tends to creep up on people. If you've been procrastinating, it'll come soon enough.
And let's talk about that real quick, and we can get back to it. If you have procrastinated, and if you can't make the deadline, don't ignore this. What should you do?
File an extension. It's so easy. It's just one form. And now it doesn't give you an extension to pay. So if you owe, that's not going to work for you. But most people get a refund. And if you don't have your stuff together, why rush and risk making a mistake or shortchanging yourself? File for an extension, and then you get until October to file your tax return. It's very easy. You don't have to give a reason. You could do it electronically or, through the mail. But that's an option that people should definitely take advantage of if it gets to be April 13th, 14th, and they're just not ready.
That's right. And if you're going to miss the deadline, there's no option not to file. You've got to either file or file an extension. Otherwise, you're going to run into penalties, okay? And when we come back, we'll talk about those penalties and what you can do and what you should do. And what about free filing? If I do it myself, can I make this happen? We'll ask Sandra if that's a good way to go. All of this coming up next year on Home and Family Finance. I'm your host, Paul Berry, here on the Radio America Network. We're actually talking taxes with a cheerful Sandra Block from Kiplinger. She is a tax expert here and has written extensively about this, and you can read anything that she's writing in the Kiplinger newsletter. You go Kiplinger.com. Is that right? Is that the right address?
Kiplinger Personal Finance Magazine or Kiplinger.com is where I write.
Okay. So there may be some things, other questions that we don't have here, but Sandra certainly is available to give you the information that you need. Now, everybody's talking about, but a lot of folks, well, not everybody, because a lot of folks don't talk taxes, but they have to pay them. But they are concerned about the so-called free, if you filed yourself, good news for those filing their own taxes. Sandra, what is the good news?
The good news is that because the tax software providers are very competitive, they have expanded their free offerings. In the past, most of the free offerings were limited to people who had very simple returns, 1040EZ, sometimes 1040A. But if you itemize, you own a home, you have kids, a lot of times you weren't eligible. Well, this year there are several new entrants that are offering free federal and maybe even state preparation and filing for people who have more complex tax returns. Probably the most interesting one is H&R Block, which is really trying to get a piece of the tax software market. And they introduced a product this year that is called More Zero. And if you own a home, you itemize and you claim charitable deductions, you can use this program for free. So it's really, it covers a lot of people who maybe in the past had to pay to file their taxes. So that one's definitely worth checking out. Another new one this year is there's a company called Credit Karma that has been offering free credit reports. Well, now they're offering a free tax prep program, and it is basically available to almost everybody, even people with investment or self-employment income. So I think people might want to check these out and see if they suit them. You can usually try them out for free, and as I said, it could save you a lot of money.
Well, how does this work now? Do I have to buy something, their software, or do I have to download? How does this work, Sandra?
No, you just go to their websites, and we have them all on our on the story that I wrote for our website, Kiplinger.com. You go to the link, you go to their website, and basically you just, put in your information. You don't have to pay anything up front. Now, what I do warn people about in any free program, make sure you read carefully the fine print, because sometimes people will get to the end and find out that they have to pay to file their state return, or that there's some extra payment they didn't realize. But in the two that I mentioned, the H&R Block product, the Credit Karma product, there's really no catch to it. Like I said, you don't have to put in a credit card number to use these programs. And if you start using it and decide you don't like it, you can just bail out. It doesn't cost you anything.
So, but if it does, if and when it does cost you something, I mean, how does H&R Block or Credit Karma, how do they make their money?
Well, different ways. H&R Block is basically trying to get you interested in their product. So as your tax situation becomes more complicated, you'll be willing to pay. So this is just a way to try and sort of get more customers. Credit Karma is a little more interesting. They and you can opt out of this, but their sort of program model is that they pitch you stuff. They use your information to say, well, this income, you might qualify for this credit card. Now, if that makes you uncomfortable, you can opt out of it.
They Facebook you. Is what I call it. On Facebook, before you see the video, you got to go through 30 seconds of their spot. So, and that's what Credit Karma Facebooks you. They give you, they tease you with stuff, and if you can put up with it, then you actually can use their facilities and file tax free.
That's right, and theirs really is free. I mean, they don't. There's a few situations where you may not be able to use the program, but you're not going to get to the end and find out you have to pay.
And okay, so then the next question. Okay, I get that. And my next question, Sandra, is how accurate am I fit to do this? I mean, I haven't done I've always used somebody else. Can I figure this out and get it done?
It really depends on your own circumstances, because as good as these programs are, they're only as good as the information that you put in. And if you have it, the one advantage of a tax preparer is they'll sit down with you and ask you. I think it depends on your If you have a simple tax return, there is no reason to pay anybody to file your taxes. If you're self-employed, you have a lot of investments, rental income, it may be worthwhile paying somebody to do your taxes.
I got it. Read your situation. Sandra Block is my guest, Kiplinger's tax expert. She's with us. When we come back, we'll talk some more things that you might want to know here on Home and Family Finance. It is tax season, folks. Let's get your taxes done. Stop procrastinating. Do your taxes. We'll be right back. You're listening to Home and Family Finance. I am your host, Paul Berry, and very pleased to be with you here on the Radio America Network. My guest today is Sandra Block. She is an editor, Kiplinger editor, and she is also their tax expert, and you can read about what she's written about on Kiplinger.com. Look, the exciting part of this and the new part of this is that you truly can file your own taxes for free. And that is new, isn't it, Sandra?
It is, and the one thing people shouldn't overlook as well is that the IRS has its own free filing program. If your adjusted gross income last year was $64,000 or less, you can go to irs.gov/free file, and there's 12 different private programs that you may be eligible to use. And these programs do not discriminate. You don't have to have a 1040 Easy or 1040A. You can have a complicated program and still use this. And I think often people, because the other programs are promoted more heavily, people don't check out the IRS option, but it is there, and it is, if you meet the income requirements, it's a very easy way to file your federal and maybe your state tax return for free.
And folks, let me also suggest to you this: Uncle Sam is not out to get you. I've had people go, I would use the IRS, but they're going to know more. They're going to use what they find out to come after me. No, they're not. That's not what this is about.
No, they're not. And actually, the IRS already knows so much about you. They don't need free file. I mean, what trips people up when they file their taxes is they don't realize that so many of the things that you get are also filed with the IRS. Your W-2, your 1099s, these things are already with the IRS. They already know this stuff. So, free file isn't going to tell them a lot more. And I think that a lot of people get really annoyed that they have to pay to file their taxes. In addition to paying their taxes, they have to pay to file their taxes. Sometimes it's worthwhile, but if that really bothers you, I think there are options, and they really, in the case of IRS Free File, it's not a trick. I mean, it's just a partnership with private companies that lets you file your taxes for free.
And folks, the other part of, and Sandra made it very clear, you have to know what your circumstances are. Some things are complicated to the degree that you not only have to pay for it, but you're going to need somebody with expertise to get you through that. And if that's what you need, do it. Don't shy away from that. Which brings me to another part of this whole thing, Sandra, because people are buzzing now about how do I keep from getting ripped off. Am I more likely to get ripped off by scammers or cheats because I'm filing my own taxes than if not?
I don't think it really, you mean as opposed to using a tax preparer? Tax fraud, no, I think tax refund fraud it kind of crosses the board. I don't think filing your, now the one thing I will say is if you file your own taxes for free online, you do need to be very aware of security and make sure that you use good passwords and that you don't fall. One of the scams that's come up is phishing emails that purport to come from your tax preparation company that, try to get you to give up information. Always interact with them by logging on to their website. Don't respond to emails. So there are steps you should take to protect your information. But I think if you take those steps, you're not more vulnerable than using a tax preparer, and you should ask a tax preparer what steps he or she is taking as well.
That's right. And I think the point that you make, and I don't want to gloss over that, is the tax man's not going to just call you and say, hey, let me help you do your taxes. If you get that kind of call, be aware. I mean, you have to start the action as opposed to somebody from the IRS calling you to help you pay your tax. It ain't going to work that way, right?
Yeah, and the big scam now is that people will say they're from the IRS and that you owe taxes, and if you don't pay them right now, the IRS does not call people on the phone, and it doesn't email either. IRS pretty much interacts by sending you mail, old-fashioned way. Yep. So if you get a call from the IRS, it's almost certainly bogus.
Right. I get the letters from them, the mail from them. But listen, I'm just like you folks. I was late sometimes before paying my tax. I've learned my lesson, and they will contact you via mail. That's just that simple. And by the way, if you have any question, folks, Sandra, if people have any question, call the IRS and ask about who's contacted you. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I think if someone's calling you, usually it's a scammer, but you can certainly double check that with the IRS. Okay,
now let's again tell people how they can reach out to you, please.
All of our tax information is on Kiplinger.com. We have tax tips, we have tax breaks, we have tons of information about deductions you might overlook, the forms that you need. So if you go to our website, you'll find all kinds of information that I think will be helpful either in doing your own taxes or getting your stuff together so somebody else can do them for you.
Folks, it's very comprehensive. You may not reach Sandra Block, and I don't mean to suggest that you will, but what you will find is all the information that you need right there if you go to Kiplinger. It's all laid out there. And, of course, you can go to the IRS as well. Everything is out there. Above all else, either file your taxes or file for an extension and get it done. Get it done and get it won, as a commercial says. Sandra, thanks for joining us. Come back again, would you?
Okay, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you. You are delightful. Sandra Block from Kiplinger. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us, folks.